There are two ways to lose money. One feels dangerous immediately, watching a number in your bank account drop in real time, alarms going off in your head with every purchase. The other feels almost neutral, a small monthly payment that barely registers, even though it's often costing you far more in the long run. That second one is debt, and the reason it feels safer has almost nothing to do with actual math. I spend way too much time thinking about why our brains rank financial risks so differently from how those risks actually behave. If you've ever felt strangely calm about a credit card balance while feeling genuine anxiety about pulling cash from savings, stick around because that reaction isn't random, and understanding it changes how you look at debt for the rest of your life. Subscribe if you want the psychology behind this, instead of just another pay off your debt lecture. Here's what almost nobody explains clearly about debt. It doesn't feel like a loss when you take it on, because nothing actually leaves your account. You get the item, the experience, the thing you wanted, and the cost gets pushed into small, deferred pieces that arrive later, disconnected from the moment of the purchase itself. Spending savings feels like loss because you watch the number drop instantly. Debt skips that step entirely, and your brain, which evolved to react to immediate, visible changes, simply doesn't register it the same way. Think of it like standing near a slow leak versus watching a bucket get kicked over. The kicked bucket is loud, obvious, impossible to ignore, and you respond to it immediately. The slow leak barely makes a sound. You can walk past it for weeks without noticing anything is wrong, even though, given enough time, it can drain just as much water, sometimes more, than the bucket ever held.
Debt is the leak, while spending savings is the kicked bucket.
Both empty the same reserve, only one of them triggers your alarm system. Here's the actual mechanism, and it has a name behavioral economists have studied extensively: temporal discounting. Your brain consistently undervalues costs and rewards that are pushed into the future compared to costs and rewards happening right now. A $500 purchase today feels smaller when it's broken into 18 monthly payments of $30, even though the total cost, once you add interest, is often meaningfully higher than the original price. The pain of paying gets smeared out over so much time that no single moment ever feels like enough to react to. Let's put real numbers on how much this distortion actually costs. The average credit card interest rate sits well above 20% annually. If you carry a balance of $5,000 and only make minimum payments, you can end up paying more in interest over several years than the original purchase price itself, sometimes doubling the real cost of whatever you bought. That's not a hypothetical worst case. That's the ordinary, unremarkable outcome of minimum payments left running quietly in the background, which is exactly why it doesn't feel alarming while it's happening. Here's the part that will genuinely surprise you. This distortion isn't limited to people who are bad with money or financially uneducated. Studies on temporal discounting show the effect appears consistently across income levels and financial literacy levels, because it's not a knowledge gap, it's a wiring issue. Knowing intellectually that debt costs more doesn't automatically make the monthly payment feel as threatening as watching your savings account balance actually drop. And that gap between knowing and feeling is where most debt problems quietly live. I'll be honest with you, I fell into exactly this trap in my mid-20s, financing a laptop I genuinely needed for work, but choosing an 18-month payment plan instead of saving for 6 weeks and buying it outright, purely because the monthly number felt so much smaller than the total. When I actually calculated what those 18 months of interest cost me afterward, it was close to what I would have spent on a nicer laptop entirely, paid for outright, no interest, no plan. The savings account version of that decision would have felt expensive in the moment. The debt version felt like nothing at all, right up until I did the math.
Here's a before and after most people never calculate. Before you understand temporal discounting, a monthly payment feels like the actual cost of something, a small, manageable number you can comfortably fit into your budget. After you understand it, you start seeing the monthly payment as a disguise, a way of hiding the real total cost behind a number small enough to avoid triggering any real reaction. And you start asking what the full number actually is before agreeing to anything. And here's another one. Before you understand this, paying cash for something expensive feels irresponsible compared to financing it, spending a huge chunk of savings all at once instead of spreading it out sensibly. After you understand it, you realize that discomfort you feel handing over cash is actually your brain working correctly, registering the real size of the cost in the moment it happens, instead of letting that same cost slip past unnoticed in 18 disconnected pieces.
Now, here's where people usually take this too far in the wrong direction. So let me be clear. This isn't an argument that all debt is bad, or that financing is always a trap to avoid entirely. Some debt, a reasonable mortgage, a business loan with a clear return, genuinely makes sense and can build wealth rather than erode it. This is specifically about the debt that exists purely because the monthly number felt smaller than the real cost, not because the math actually favored financing over paying outright. The fix isn't complicated, but it requires a deliberate translation most people skip. Before taking on any debt, calculate the full cost, including interest, and compare that single total number against your actual savings balance, not against the monthly payment. Let your brain react to the real number, the one that would make you flinch if you saw it disappear from your account all at once, instead of the small, disguised version designed to slip past unnoticed.
So the next time a monthly payment looks small and manageable, I want you to translate it into the total cost before deciding anything. Because the version of you who does that translation isn't being paranoid about debt. They're just the only one in the conversation reacting to the number that was actually true the whole time, instead of the smaller one designed to feel safe.